Welcome back to our channel. The year 1940 was a time of quiet tension and shifting tides in the United States. The nation was still recovering from the Great Depression while the clouds of global conflict gathered on the horizon. Amid this backdrop, the U.S. Mint was busily producing millions of wheat pennies, the small, humble 1-cent coins that bore the emblematic wheat ears on the reverse side, a design introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. By 1940, these wheat pennies had become ubiquitous in American pockets, tills, and collections alike. The wheat penny, composed primarily of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, was minted in 3 facilities that year: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each bore a subtle mint mark or none in the case of Philadelphia, denoting its origin. These coins were more than just currency. They were small tokens of everyday life, slipping through countless hands, exchanging stories in silence. Yet, amid the ordinary, there was an anomaly. A rare, almost imperceptible error born from the ceaseless, mechanical stamping of metal discs. The machinery, vast and complex, was prone to minute imperfections, and in 1940, one such imperfection gave rise to an error coin that would quietly slip through the cracks of history for decades. The error was a subtle form of doubling, a misalignment during the die preparation that caused the coin's inscriptions to appear faintly doubled. Unlike the bold and unmistakable doubled dies that catch the eye immediately, this doubling was faint, almost ghostly. It could easily be overlooked by the casual observer or dismissed as a mere manufacturing quirk. But for those who knew what to look for, this small irregularity represented something far more significant. Years passed, and the wheat pennies circulated without fanfare, their error quietly tucked away in the pockets and cash drawers of unsuspecting Americans. That is, until a collector named James entered the story. James was a seasoned numismatist, the kind whose fingers instinctively sifted through coins, eyes trained to spot even the faintest oddity. He had spent decades chasing errors, varieties, and rare mintings, drawn to the stories they told about American history and craftsmanship. One summer afternoon, while perusing a coin shop's dusty bins, a particular 1940 wheat penny caught his attention. At first glance, it looked ordinary. But the glint of copper beneath a magnifying glass revealed something unusual: a slight doubling of the lettering on the word Liberty, and the date itself. It wasn't dramatic, but it was there, subtle and unmistakable to James's practiced eye. His heart quickened with the thrill of discovery, tempered by the caution of years of experience. Could this be just a one-off anomaly, or the evidence of a rare double die variety? He purchased the coin and took it home, dedicating hours to comparing it with other 1940 pennies from his collection and reference materials. The doubling was consistent, not wear or damage. This was something born at the mint, an error frozen in copper. He contacted experts and submitted the coin for professional grading and authentication. The verdict confirmed his suspicions. This was indeed a genuine double die error, an incredibly rare find for that year. What followed was a journey not just of discovery, but of revelation. As James shared his find with the collector community, more examples surfaced, each showing variations of the doubling, some more pronounced on the date, others on the motto, "In God We Trust," and even on Lincoln's profile. The 1940 double die wheat penny was no longer a solitary mystery. It was a defined category of error, precious and elusive. But the intrigue deepened as collectors noted a curious pattern. Unlike many double die coins that enjoyed rapid and steady increases in value, these 1940 wheat penny errors experienced a more complex evolution. Initially, their market value was modest. Dealers prized them as neat curiosities rather than headline-grabbing rarities. The subtlety of the doubling made widespread interest slow to build, and many collectors overlooked their significance. Over time, however, the coin's value began to climb, propelled by growing awareness and the rising enthusiasm of specialized error collectors. Auction records showed gradual increases from a few $100s for lower-grade examples to several thousand for pristine specimens. But it wasn't just the condition that dictated worth. It was the exact nature of the doubling, the mint mark, and even the presence of secondary features like die cracks or unusual strike characteristics. Collectors speculated endlessly. Why was this error so elusive? Why had it remained under the radar for so long? Each new discovery brought fresh questions and excitement. The market for these coins fluctuated like a tide, sometimes surging with demand after a notable sale, sometimes receding as collectors reevaluated their priorities. Then came the revelation that truly transformed the story. An expert examining high-resolution images of a particularly sharp specimen noticed something unusual in the area around the date. The doubling appeared intertwined with a faint die clash, a striking phenomenon where the dies themselves collided without a planchet, coin blank, between them, causing a ghostly imprint of the design to appear in unintended places. This die clash had been overlooked for decades. Its presence suggested that the minting equipment had suffered a significant malfunction during the production run, an event that was neither documented nor anticipated. The discovery added a new layer of rarity and desirability, as these combined double die and die clash errors were incredibly uncommon. Even more intriguing was a subtle color variation found on some specimens. A few coins showed an unusual patina, a faint bluish tint overlaying the typical copper surface. Metallurgical analysis revealed a slightly higher concentration of trace elements, possibly introduced by an inconsistent alloy batch or environmental factors during the coin circulation. These findings fueled a wave of excitement and re-examination. Collectors now hunted not just the double die 1940 wheat pennies, but those with die clash features or unique patinas. The coin transformed from a simple minting mistake into a rich tapestry of mechanical imperfection, historical context, and chemical mystery. James, ever the dedicated collector, managed to secure one of these rare die clash specimens with the unique blue patina. Holding it under a specialized light, he saw the interplay of design and shadow in a way that made the coin almost alive. This wasn't just a piece of metal. It was a storybook of the mint's struggles, wartime pressures, and human oversight. As word spread, the value of these coins soared. Auctions drew passionate bids. Private collectors whispered about hidden hoards and uncirculated finds tucked away in old family collections. Some specimens reached astonishing sums, not just because of rarity, but because of the layered narrative each coin carried. Through it all, the 1940 wheat penny era exemplified the unpredictable dance between chance and craftsmanship. What started as a minor slip in the mint's process evolved into a coveted treasure, its worth shaped by history, discovery, and the unyielding curiosity of those who seek meaning in metal. This coin reminds us that even the smallest errors can echo through time, turning everyday objects into priceless artifacts. And for collectors like James, the journey is as compelling as the prize itself, a journey that reveals history not only in textbooks, but in the quiet gleam of a copper penny. The year 1941 stands at the cusp of monumental change for the United States. Just months before the nation would be thrust into the global conflict of World War II, everyday life carried on with a sense of anticipation and unease. At the heart of daily commerce, the humble wheat penny circulated widely, the 1-cent coin bearing the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and 2 stalks of wheat framing the words, 1 cent, on the reverse. It was a design that had endured since 1909, a symbol of American resilience and simplicity in a rapidly shifting world. That year, the U.S. Mint struck millions of these coins at 3 facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each bore either no mint mark or the familiar D or S, signifying their place of origin. The copper composition, mostly 95% copper with a hint of tin and zinc, gave the pennies their distinctive reddish-brown hue, though circulation and age would transform their appearance over time. Yet, amid the steady rhythm of mass production, the relentless hum of machinery occasionally faltered. The precision required to stamp millions of coins daily left little room for error, but imperfections inevitably slipped through. In 1941, A subtle but fascinating anomaly was born, an error coin that would captivate collectors decades later. This particular anomaly was not one of grand, dramatic features that leap out at the casual eye. Rather, it was a quiet mistake, a faint doubling of letters and numbers, almost ghost-like, hidden in the inscriptions of the coin's obverse. The word, liberty, and sometimes the date, 1941, revealed slight shadows and echoes, traces of a misaligned die that pressed twice ever so gently. This phenomenon, known among numismatists as a double die error, was caused by a misstep in the preparation of the coin's die, the metal stamp that imprints the coin's design. Initially, these errors were largely unnoticed or dismissed as minor curiosities. But within the quiet recesses of the collector community, whispers began to emerge about a 1941 wheat penny with an intriguing flaw. These whispers grew, fueled by the relentless search for rarities, until the error became an object of genuine interest. Among those drawn into this unfolding story was a collector named Laura. She was not new to the world of coins. Years of collecting had honed her eye for detail and her passion for uncovering the stories coins could tell. While sorting through a bulk lot purchased from an estate sale, Laura spotted something unusual. Nestled among thousands of ordinary pennies was a 1941 wheat penny that felt different beneath her fingertips. She reached for her loupe, the magnifying glass that was every collector's trusted tool, and peered closely. There it was, the faint but undeniable doubling on Liberty. The letters seemed to have a soft echo, a shadow cast just slightly askew from the main inscription. The date, too, bore a subtle blur, as if the coin had tried to tell a secret twice. Her heartbeat quickened. The thrill of discovery mixed with caution. Was this a genuine error, or simply wear and tear, or perhaps a cleaning artifact? Laura set about comparing this coin to others in her collection, to images from reference books and online forums. The doubling was consistent and precise, a telltale sign of a mint error rather than damage. Reaching out to fellow collectors and experts, Laura sought confirmation. The responses she received ranged from intrigued curiosity to outright excitement. She learned that while double die errors were not unheard of, the 1941 wheat penny variety was exceptionally rare. Even among error coins, this one was elusive, a whisper from the past that had managed to survive the flood of history almost unnoticed. As word spread through collector circles, the coin's mystique deepened. Auctions began to feature 1941 double die wheat pennies sporadically, each one commanding more attention and higher bids than the last. But the market was far from stable. The coin's value ebbed and flowed, tied to the ebb and flow of collector interest, the condition of the specimens, and the gradual unveiling of the coin's variations. Some coins showed more pronounced doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust," while others had clearer shadows along Lincoln's jawline. Certain mint marks seemed to produce rarer examples, further fueling speculation and excitement. The collector community became a hive of activity, sharing photos, debating authenticity, and hunting for overlooked treasures in dusty coin rolls. Early on, the coin's value was modest. Many dealers prized it as a fascinating oddity, something nice to own, but not a top-tier rarity. But as the subtle differences became better understood and the number of known specimens remained low, the price began to climb steadily. It was a slow burn, a growing flame rather than a sudden blaze. Years passed, and the 1941 double die wheat penny grew into a sought-after prize. Collectors who had once overlooked the faint doubling now scoured collections with renewed vigor, hoping to find the hidden ghost letters on their own coins. The coin became a symbol of patience and dedication in the numismatic world, proof that even the quietest stories could hold great value. The intrigue took a dramatic turn when one particularly well-preserved specimen surfaced in a private collection. This coin exhibited not only the classic double die features, but also a curious anomaly, a faint, misplaced letter partially overlapping the date. It was as if the die itself had been struck by an even more unusual accident, a partial overstrike, or perhaps a die clash, where the dies collided without a blank planchet between them, imprinting unintended features onto each other. This unexpected twist fascinated experts and collectors alike. The combined double die and die clash error was virtually unheard of on a 1941 wheat penny, making this specimen uniquely valuable. Its existence suggested that the minting process that year was more flawed and complex than previously believed. Adding to the mystery, metallurgical tests revealed an unusual composition in the copper alloy of this coin. It contained trace elements slightly out of the ordinary for the era, hinting at inconsistencies in the metal batch used during that particular strike. Could wartime resource pressures or supply chain challenges have affected the metal quality? The answer was uncertain, but the possibility added depth to the coin's story, intertwining economic history with numismatic intrigue. Collectors now sought out these double-error coins, especially those showing the unique die clash and the odd metallic tint some exhibited. Each coin carried a layered narrative, a convergence of mechanical mishap, economic circumstance, and historical context. The 1941 wheat penny had transformed from a common piece of currency into a complex artifact, embodying the unexpected twists of both minting technology and the era itself. For Laura, the journey had been transformative. What started as a simple curiosity became an obsession that connected her to a broader community of enthusiasts and historians. She realized that this tiny piece of copper was more than metal. It was a bridge to the past, a whisper of the human stories behind the machinery, and the tumult of 1941.as collectors continued to explore. New finds occasionally appeared, sometimes in forgotten boxes, other times in the most unlikely places. Each discovery added to the mosaic, revealing just how fragile and fascinating the world of coin errors could be. The value of these coins reflected not only rarity, but also the unfolding narrative. They carried a narrative still being written with every new coin unearthed. The 1941 wheat penny double die error stands as a testament to the unexpected beauty that can arise from imperfection. It reminds us that even in the most routine objects, hidden stories await those patient enough to look closely, listen carefully, and appreciate the mysteries etched in metal. And so, the story continues, a quiet legacy of a coin that slipped through history's cracks, waiting to be discovered again and again by those who see beyond its surface, a small, copper portal into an era defined by resilience, change, and the subtle marks left by human hands and machines. The year 1952 was a time of quiet transformation in America. The country was settling into a post-war rhythm, a blend of optimism and cautious progress as it moved through the early years of the Cold War. On the streets, and in the pockets of millions, a small piece of copper spun its way through everyday transactions. A 1-cent wheat penny, familiar and unassuming, yet steeped in history. These wheat pennies had been in circulation since 1909, their design honoring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and the reverse adorned with 2 stalks of wheat framing the denomination. 1 cent. By 1952, the mint was producing these pennies primarily at the Philadelphia and Denver facilities, identifiable by the absence or presence of a small D mint mark beneath the date. The composition remained largely the same, 95% copper with a blend of tin and zinc, giving the coins their characteristic reddish-brown color, which would wear down and patina over time, telling the tale of their journey through hands and time. Though mass-produced with remarkable precision, the minting process was not immune to occasional flaws. Presses struck thousands of coins per minute, and the dies, those metal stamps that bore the images, underwent tremendous stress. Sometimes, errors slipped through, creating anomalies that would go unnoticed for years. In 1952, among the countless wheat pennies produced, a particular error emerged, subtle and easily overlooked but significant to those who knew where to look. The coin's design bore faint doubling on the date and the word Liberty on the obverse. This doubling wasn't bold or dramatic. It was a delicate ghosting, like an echo of the original impression, a telltale sign of a doubled die. Such double die errors happen when the die itself is struck more than once during preparation, misaligning the details. The result is a coin that carries a faint but unmistakable shadow of letters or numbers alongside their primary impressions. For years, these coins drifted unnoticed in circulation. To the average person, they were simply pennies, common and replaceable. But for collectors, those with a keen eye and an understanding of the nuances, the subtle difference meant everything. Michael, a seasoned coin collector with a deep appreciation for the stories behind each piece, stumbled upon one such coin in a batch of pennies he had acquired from a local coin shop. At first glance, it was an ordinary 1952 wheat penny, its copper surface worn but intact. But something about the date and the lettering caught his attention, a slight doubling that shimmered faintly under his magnifying glass. His heart raced as he examined the coin further, rotating it under the light to catch every angle. The doubling was subtle but unmistakable. The Liberty seemed to have a soft twin slightly offset, and the date appeared to bear a ghost image beside the main numbers. It wasn't damage or wear, it was a minting anomaly. Curious and excited, Michael reached out to other collectors and experts. Forums buzzed with discussions about double die errors, but the 1952 variety was elusive. Some doubted its existence. Others claimed it was among the rarest double die errors for wheat pennies. The thrill of potential discovery grew as Michael learned that only a handful of authentic specimens had ever been documented. The rarity of the error and the mystery surrounding it fueled his passion. Each new conversation, each shared photograph, deepened his understanding of this quiet anomaly. This was not just a coin, it was a piece of history, a fingerprint of the mint's machinery and the human error inherent in any mass production process. Over the years, the value of the 1952 double die wheat penny began to shift. At first, it was a modest curiosity, priced similarly to other minor error coins. Collectors bought it for the story, the novelty. But as more information surfaced and awareness spread, the coin's desirability increased. Those who owned one found themselves holding a piece that could command attention and higher prices in the numismatic market. Subtle variations in doubling and mint marks meant that some coins were more valuable than others. The ones from the Denver Mint, for instance, seemed to exhibit more pronounced doubling, creating a niche for specialists and eager bidders. Condition played a critical role too. Sharp, well-preserved coins fetched premium prices, while those worn from circulation were less coveted but still prized. Collectors began hunting for these coins with renewed vigor. Coin rolls from the early 1950s were carefully inspected, magnifying glasses in hand, searching for the telltale doubling. Auctions that featured authenticated examples saw spirited bidding wars, though the coin's value was far from stable. It fluctuated as interest waxed and waned, revealing a market still trying to understand the coin's true worth. Then, a remarkable discovery added a new chapter to the coin's story. An exceptionally well-preserved 1952 wheat penny surfaced, showing not only the classic double die doubling but an additional, unexpected flaw. A misalignment of the reverse die that caused the wheat stalks to appear uneven, one slightly lower than the other. This gave the coin a peculiar asymmetry that experts called a shifted die error. This double error coin, a combined double die on the obverse and a shifted die on the reverse, was almost unheard of. It was a rarity within a rarity, a perfect storm of minting anomalies that created a unique specimen, one that fascinated collectors and historians alike. The significance of this combined error went beyond mere rarity. It suggested a glimpse into the mint's production challenges during the early 1950s. As America's industrial engine roared post-war, the mint had to keep pace with demand, sometimes pushing equipment and personnel to their limits. Such anomalies hinted at a moment where precision faltered, where mechanical and human factors collided to create something extraordinary. Further intrigue came with metallurgical analyses conducted on the double-error coin. Researchers found that the copper alloy composition deviated slightly from standard ratios. The coin contained trace amounts of impurities not commonly found in other pennies of the era. Speculation arose that supply chain disruptions or changes in metal sourcing after World War II might have influenced the metal batches, adding another layer to the coin's complex history. collectors and experts began to speculate. Could these subtle variations in metal composition have contributed to the die wear or misalignment that caused the errors? The question added a new dimension to numismatic research and debate, blurring the lines between coin collecting and historical metallurgy. With every new example found, the story of the 1952 wheat penny era grew richer. Collectors treasured these coins not only for their monetary value, but for their place in a larger narrative of American history, industrial challenges, and the human element within the machinery of minting. Michael, now deeply invested in the coin saga, often reflected on the unlikely journey that had brought him from casual hobbyist to a custodian of this story. For him, the coin was a reminder that the smallest objects could carry the weight of decades of history, and that every detail, no matter how faint, held a secret worth uncovering. The 1952 wheat penny error was more than an aberration. It was a symbol of the imperfections that make history tangible, and of the collectors who seek to preserve those imperfections, turning them into stories, into treasures, into living links to a time long past but never forgotten.